want to find in your Bible, these are really easy books that we'll look at to start with. The first book and the last book, so that's easy for you. You can go both ways. Turn to the front or turn to the back, and you'll see. You can see what we're going to talk about. Okay, Revelations chapter 1. So if you find that, just turn over there, and then we're going to go to Genesis chapter 1. Before I read this in Revelations chapter 1, let me read you some notes. I just wrote this a little bit, just to kind of lay the groundwork here for what we'll talk about this morning. I've been born to live my best life yet. You know, ask yourself, why am I here? What is my purpose? Whatever. I've been born to live my best life yet. That life is the one I'm living at the present moment. This life is lived by my own choosing. No one, male or female, can live this life for me. The things I call mistakes are not mistakes, but stepping stones to a greater life that I have chosen to live. I not only will live this life, but will help thousands to find and live this life with me. This is my mission, and this is my commission. I will enjoy this life and show others how to find heaven on earth. Happiness and abundance are plans for the results of my life. Amen. Amen. Just talking with one of my grandkids yesterday, and she said, "Papa, happiness is a thing of our choosing." I said, "It's a thing of your own choosing, but it is a very important thing of your choosing, because if you're not happy, if the things in your life aren't happy," and I have heard people say, "Yeah, happiness is something that's happening to you or for you or around you or about you." And I said, that sounds really good, and that's probably the definition that's given to it a lot, but happiness is actually found within you. Mm-hmm. Everything that is life and that's abundance is always within you. So if you go to looking for it outside you, you probably will find a lot of things that are deceptions that aren't the real thing that you're looking for. Even though they could bring pleasure, they could bring other things, even happiness. But the real things that you look for are always inside you, no matter what it is. It's the light that's in you. That's in every individual. It doesn't matter who they are. It's not what they do. Like I said, every one of us, how many of you could remember a notable, what the world called a mistake that you made or that you did, and yet it became one of the greatest experiences to catapult you or to move you in the right direction. So if it's a mistake and yet it moves you in the right direction, then is it a mistake? Or is it an experience that got your attention enough to move you in the right direction? And you know, a lot of times the only reason something like that happens is we're not paying attention, or we're just not aware of what's going on. So anyway, the things that I will share obviously are a little different from what most people would hear in, quote, a religious setting, and that's why we try to keep this from being a religious setting. It's like Wes was talking about. He said, in the background, when you look at the DVDs, he said, you said happy fall. He said, most people's fall was sad. And I said, well, yeah, it's true. That's because they think they failed. Religion told them that they failed, and I always said, where was that at? Where did you fall? And where did you make this mistake? Or in other words, this falling, so that you were conceived and born in sin, so that no matter what happens to you, you're just a sinner. I said, where does that happen at, and who did that? And they don't like to give the answer because it's a cut and dried answer. It's an answer that's known only in the Christian circle through Christianity, and that was Adam and Eve, our parents. They the ones blew it. Well, if they blew it, then God should punish them, not me. I mean, if God is just, hello? If God is really just, He should do the just punishment to the one that deserved it, or the one that did the act. I didn't have nothing to do with them. Hello? They did what they did. Well, that's a lie. You know, I keep saying this, and I have said it over and over. I would like for you to find me an apple tree in Genesis 2 or chapter 3. And I even go so far as to say, find me an Adam and Eve that are a person that really did that act or did this thing, and they're not there. There is an Esh, and an Eshah, but if I said Esh or Eshah, most people say, what is that? Who is that? I said, well, those are the two Hebrew words for masculine and feminine, which everybody is made up of. In other words, a right and left brain, which everybody has a right and left brain, which is your masculine and feminine energies, no matter if you are a male or a female. And that masculine and feminine energy is the work that you have in life to balance the contention that goes on in yourself. Because your masculine and feminine energies will constantly pull at each other. It's designed to be that way. That's how creation manifests itself, through that tension, through that winter, summer, that pull, positive, negative. That's how everything in this dimension, in the 3D dimension, that's how it works, period. So it doesn't matter if your mom and daddy come together to create you, or if you had an artificial insemination. You had to have a masculine and feminine energy, or you would not be here. Hello? So nobody made a mistake there. You know, and I keep saying it, there's no mistake made. Now you have to, if you're really a thinking person, and you go back to Genesis 1, 2, and 3, and there are no mistakes, but everything is following the pattern or the plan of its created source, then if there is no mistake, then do you need someone to redeem you from a mistake that you didn't make? Therefore, if you're not a sinner, hell-bound, then what are you? Who are you? Well, I just read who you are. You are the divine manifestation of the source. And there's nothing wrong with that. Now, can you make choices that don't serve you for your greater good? Of course you can. But you don't have anybody sitting there taking a list and checking it twice and see if you've been naughty or nice, and then you ain't going to get no presents this year. That's not true. Those are lies that we often get caught in trying to accept, but they're not true. So as we look at this is the Bible, this book that I'm using, that I use, is not a history book. It is a mystery book about the greatest phenomenon that is in existence, and that is you. It's a mystery book about the physical body which the divine source created for its own pleasure and its own home. So no matter whether you realize it, God gets great pleasure out of you. God thoroughly enjoys you. And in that relationship, that is a love relationship between the source and its creation, between the male, masculine, and feminine. And it's designed to be that way, and that's why it's played out in the world that way. That's why that thing happens. So I want you to look at this with me. Revelations chapter 1 and verse 19, it says, write the things which you have seen. Okay? Let's just put that up there. So the first thing I want you to do, I want you to write down the things which you have what? Seen. That's number one. We're going to write down the things which you have seen, and the things which are. That's the second thing. I want you to write down what you've seen. And now I want you to write down the things that are and the things that are hereafter. Everybody see that? So that's three things. Now that's the introduction in this book. And so this book, the book of Revelation, this is the revelation of humanity. In other words, this book is not prophetic, okay? People want to say, oh, this is the things that's going to happen, you know, when the mark of the beast and God begins to separate everybody on the earth, the Christians from the non-Christians, and then kill everybody else. That's gross garbage. That's not what this book is about. Now I realize, and I do know, this book is written in a language that if you can't understand or you do not see this language, it will confuse the hell out of you, and it really will. It does. And it has most people, because of either the lack of simple things, in other words, the lack of the fact that it's symbolic. So whatever it's saying, it's not saying about something literal, it's saying about something symbolic. And when you start to see that, say, oh, okay, this is a symbol. So let's kind of look at the symbolism. So verse 20, it says, the mystery of the 7 stars. What did he see? He saw 7 stars. Okay. Now, if I take the astrological wheel, okay, and I divide that wheel up, and I just do it into the first 7. This is Aries, and this is Libra. And I divide, this is true in any astrological chart. It doesn't matter what chart, whether you go to China, go to the Buddhist chart, or you go to India, use the Hindu chart, or you go to Africa and use the African chart, or you go to ancient Hebrew and use the Hebrew chart. The Hebrew chart uses the 12 sons of Jacob to fill in these spots. And a lot of people don't know that. But it tells you that real clearly in the book of Genesis. It tells you, whenever the sons come to their dad, they said, well, your mother and your father represent the sun and the moon, but you 12 boys represent, each one of you, a portion of the astrological wheel. What many people don't recognize and pay attention, I think it's in Genesis 34 through 36 where you find this, they don't recognize that in Virgo, you have 12 boys that's listed in those chapters for the 12 sons. 2 of those boys were twins, and you have 1 daughter, and nobody don't even know that there's a girl mentioned there. I think that's amazing that theologians don't pay attention to that. They totally exclude that. Well, Virgo is the womb of the woman, right? Mm-hmm. So it's feminine, right? Yeah, that's what produces. So if you don't pay attention to the signs, then you liable to just, if this sign said turn right and you didn't pay a bit of attention to it, you kept going. And if you're male and you're leaning heavy towards your masculine energy, and your feminine energy says stop and turn around and go back and say, no, I ain't going to do that. I'll find it. I'm going the right way. Y'all never experienced that, have you?
Eventually.
That's because you weren't paying attention to the signs. You see what I'm saying? So even when you're reading these things and you're not paying attention to the sign, you're reading this because somebody told you this is a history book about people that lived, and it's not. It's a mystery book about you and your living. Either how to live or how life will live you. And life sometimes, if it's living you, it's harsh. Mm-hmm. It is. It'll run over you. Oh, it it will. It will just flat run. And don't stop and wait. Say, oops, uh-oh, I didn't mean to do that. It just does that. Life doesn't stop. It just is continuous, okay? You know, when that sun popped up this morning, it didn't just sit there and say, oh, this is just a beautiful spot. I'm going to stay here the rest of the day. It didn't do that. No, and see, that sun and that movement of the earth is a symbol of time. And time is progressive and time is continuous. Without time, there's no life. There's no manifestation. And so a lot of people wanting to go to a place where there is no time. Where would that be? Because if you go to any planetary system, if it's a planetary system, it's moving, it's rotating, it's turning. And if it's turning and it's moving, just think. Just pay attention. If it's turning and it's moving, it has to have time, right? It has to have the present moment. It has to have the moment in a minute, and that one a while ago. That's time. It's time. And so where you find life, you will find time. A lot of New Age teachings are trying to teach or tell you and me that we're going to go. And Christianity really falls into this in a big way. It falls into it. It doesn't mean to, but it just simply does. It just falls into that category. Because of some of the foolish things that's taught in the circle there. So, verse 19, he said, write the things which you have seen, the things which are, and the things which shall be hereafter. The mystery of the 7 stars, which you saw in my right hand, are the 7 golden candlesticks. Okay, that's the mystery of the 7 stars. Well, let's back up, if you will. Go with me to verse 10. Just back up in the book. Verse 10, chapter 1, verse 10. I was in the Spirit. Everybody there? You see that? I was in the Spirit on the Lord's day, and I heard behind me. You see that? I heard behind me. In other words, it would be like if I am like, let's say I'm like this, facing the board, and then I heard something behind me. What would that be? Like maybe Kirby? Would you say that's where Kirby's at right now? He's behind me, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? That's not what this word means in Hebrew. Actually, the word behind doesn't mean something behind me. It actually means something within me in my back. Now, what is it that's within me that's in my back? In my back, the center of my back. What is it? It's my spinal column. So what's he doing? He's hearing these 7 stars, 7 endocrine points that create a physical body within him in his back. How many of your backs ever talk to you? You abuse it and don't treat it right or don't pay attention. It'll talk to you. It'll talk real big. So he says, I heard within my back a great voice. And you and I can hear that same voice. You can hear that same voice. And that voice is like the sound of a trumpet. That voice is talking to me. Look at verse 12. And I turned. You see, the language is strange why they did this with the translators, because many times the language helps you to deceive yourself. Because immediately you come with the idea that I'm facing this direction, something behind me is talking to me. So now I'm going to turn around to see what something that is that's talking to me, rather than the fact that something within me is talking to me, and it's talking in my spinal column, or in other words, through my nerve system. Does your nerve system talk? You better believe it really does. And where is it at? You see, most of the time, religion always wants you to look out there. Where's heaven at? It's out yonder somewhere. No, it's not. It's in here. You're the manifestation of heaven. So heaven ain't out there. So where's God at? Out there somewhere? No. It's within you. See, we always are pointed in the wrong direction. And if we're not paying attention, we're going to be going in the wrong direction, looking for the very thing that we won't find there because it's inside me. So he says, and I turned, and the word turn actually is the Greek word epistrapho, which actually means to take the steps of initiation to look within. Because an initiation simply means that you are being initiated or you are being brought into something, or we talked about it a few weeks ago, you're starting the beginning of something. Where's that something at? It's within inside. It's inside you. And so what's he talking about? That's inside. So I turned to see the voice that spake within me. And being turned, I saw 7 golden candlesticks. So notice what he's saying. I saw 7 golden candlesticks. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If I put a picture on this, and you can actually find this in some astrological charts. This is the head. That's what Aries means. It means the head or the ram. You move over here. Now what do you want to do? The head or the ram, okay? And so the head or the ram is always connected to Taurus, T-A-R-U-S. Taurus, the bull, or the shoulders. That's what the sign or the symbol of Taurus represents. It represents the shoulders. Or it's like God would talk to Israel and said, you're stiff-necked. What does that mean, stiff-necked? That means I'm going to shoulder it. I'm going to come under it myself. So Taurus represents the shoulders. Gemini represents that comes out of the shoulders, the 2 arms, right? And then Cancer represents the lungs, that's inside the physical body. And then Leo represents the heart that's in here, that's beating. Virgo represents the abdomen, the womb. Libra represents the pelvic bone, and etc., and etc. And so the 7 major stars that cover the physical anatomy are everything from your sex organ to the top of your head. And from the lower part, which is generally winter, is your legs. That gives you mobility, etc., etc. But all of the ancient mysteries are centered in these 7. And so this is called the 7 golden menorah, which if you flip this over, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you flip this over, you would have the 7 golden menorah right here, just exactly like I've done it. Okay, it's the same thing. So if you go into the book of Leviticus and you see the picture of the menorah and the Holy of Holies, this is the Holy of Holies, and this is the astrological chart. If you look at Catholicism, you'll find not just the 12 apostles or the 12 sons of Jacob, you'll find the 12 archangels. Angels is a word that comes from angles. The only difference is they changed the L and the E. That's the only difference. So they mean the same word. So an archangel is an arch-angle. So then Aries is this angle of energy that produces what this angle of energy will produce. In other words, a head. And then Taurus, it's an arch-angle of energy. And as the sun moves and all the compilation of the stars that move with it, along with the earth, it's creative. It creates everything on the earth is totally responding to this energy. This energy, we call this God, right? Or source. You can call it whatever you like, source, or there's several different things. So here's what the writer of the book of Revelations is beginning to see, and he's relating this to the physical anatomy, the physical body. Now, it's amazing how, when you begin to see this, you know, and if you don't, if you're bogged down with religious ideologies, which I was for years and taught just like the traditional church for 5, 6, 8, 10 years. But I always would question certain things. And at the same time, I'm doing a lot of research in words because I would just, that would just fell into me. I see a word and I say, what does that word mean? What's the root of that word? Where does that word come from? And the more I trace and chase things back, the more I begin to realize this picture's skewed real bad. You know, it's really not the picture that it was really meant to be. And so that brought a lot of questions to me, but I started out that way because I said to Brother Dake when I was just starting my journey, gosh, 45 years ago when I was starting this path, I said, so Brother Dake, let me ask you a question. Is Jesus a man or is Jesus a lamb, a 4-footed beast? He said, well, he's both. I said, how could he be both? I said, so then if I asked Jesus to come into my heart, did I ask a 4-footed lamb that goes into my heart? No, tomfoolery, Lynn. You ask too many questions. You know? I said, how are you going to know? I said, so then is it symbolic? Yes, so it's symbolic and it's literal and you picking and choosing. I said, so actually if I went back and I made it all symbolic, it would probably make more sense. They didn't like that answer or they didn't like that question, whichever way they wanted to pose that. But if you go back and realize that it is all symbolic, it makes perfect sense and it's not illogical. I mean, have you ever noticed that some of the things they want you to believe are just not logical? There is no common sense behind them whatsoever. You know, they even went so far to tell me that some of these things you're just not going to know until you get to heaven. You know what I said to that? Bullshit. Why would God withhold something like that, a truth from me or anybody else, if I really want to know? It couldn't harm me if I know the truth, could it? And I've come to realize, you know, truth has many sides. They're not just one. So if you try to corner truth up into just one place, you could limit the truth. Because it is the truth that when that sun pierces that sky from 6 to 8, the energy that it produces is different than the energy that it will produce from 8 to 10. It's just the truth. It's different from the energy that it will produce from 12 to 2. And that energy will do different things to your body. You can go out in the morning from 8 to 10 or so, or from 6 to 10 or so, and lay in the sun, and I will promise you, I will guarantee you, you'll not get blistered. I mean, even if you are as white-lilied as you can be and don't even look like you've got any melanin in your skin, you will not get blistered. But I can promise you that same sun from 2 to 6, 2 to 5, or from 12 to 4, you lay out in it, you're going to get cooked. That's right. What's the difference? It's the same earth. It's the same sun. What's the difference? It's the energy. It's the energy that's in it. It's creative and it's doing different things for your physical body. And if you can come to a place that you realize that God designed you to be in a harmonious flow, both with the sun and the moon, and that's what a lot of these that's what these stories are about. Many of these stories are about how can I get my life in harmony and in sync with the moon cycle. Do you think the moon cycle affects you? Yes. If the moon cycle didn't affect you, you would not even be here, because it was the moon cycle that affected your mother and put her in a place where that seed that your father released could penetrate that egg and create you. That would never have happened if there wasn't a moon cycle. That's truth. Everything in your body is responding to these cycles. And all of these cycles are designed to be creative. And many times if you and I get out of sync with these cycles, it can do damage to my body. Yes. Now, well, I just don't know what's wrong with me. Could be you're not in sync with the cycles. And today, especially since we've created the light, and now then we can work people all night, and they certainly get their bodies out of the cycle with the sun and the moon, because we have all this light stuff. People just, their bodies just don't do what they should do. They're designed to do. They are designed, you're designed to work in harmony with not only the earth and what's going on with the earth, but also what's going on with the astrological wheel. The sun, moon, the planets, the stars. Because they are all affecting you and me. Infecting us. Affecting us. Any of the effects that you think. Whether it's in, a, or if. It doesn't matter. It's happening to us. It's happening to all. For anyone to be here, you had to have, this is a necessity, you had to have a mother and a father. You wouldn't be here if you didn't have that. Even though there are, in today's society, there are some women who go and have, what do they call that? Artificial insemination. Artificial insemination. That seed come from some man. They didn't nobody create that seed. They did nobody manipulate DNA to create that seed. They don't know how to do that. Now they can manipulate DNA. They do. They're doing that right now. They're doing all kind of manipulating with DNA and growing things in a incubator, like a womb. They're taking certain elements and seeing that, but they do not know how to create a semen. Your daddy did. Your daddy's body did. Now, do you think your daddy was smart enough to do that? No. There is a source of an energy of a higher intelligence that's able to do it. Your mama created an egg and laid it right there in that certain place. And there had to be that commingling of those two, or you wouldn't be here. And here you are. Were you here? Are you here by accident? A lot of people think they are. Did you come here and when your mama and daddy spit you out, your mama pushed you out into this arena? She said, "Oh my God, look what I have created. I have created a little hellion." I know when I was 13, 14, 15, 16, my mama thought that. Oh God, what did we do? Created this hellion. Can't do anything with this boy. No, choices. It's choices that we make. So, when we begin to take this and we begin to see that it is a book about the beauty of God's creation, and I'm not just talking about the earth. I mean, that is phenomenal enough, or the peacock, or any other creature. I'm talking about you and me, because we're the most phenomenon. Because why? We have been given an attribute that the rest of them don't have. The peacock ain't got it, and neither do any of the other things in nature have this attribute that we have. And you know what attribute that is? We can make choices and create. We create our world through the choices that we make. So what is your body? I mean, you know, I'm telling you these 7 stars, and I'm doing all this mumbo jumbo, showing you the 7 golden candlestick. That this is, the physical anatomy is the most phenomenal, miraculous thing that there is. So that means you are. You and your body are. So go with me to Genesis chapter 1. And Genesis chapter 1. And let me do this right here. I'm going to Hebrew counts from right to left. It's kind of different to start with, but once you get the flow of it, kind of, you see it. Now, this is the, these glyphs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these 6 glyphs represent the first 3 words in the Bible. The first 3 words in these 6 glyphs, and this is called the Beth. Y'all familiar with that, right? Everybody just about familiar with the Beth. It's yes. Pronounced with a B or a V, like as in Betty or Victor. So that's how it's pronounced. And it's the second glyph in the Hebrew alphabet. You know, like B in English is the second character in the English alphabet. So it's Beth, Rash, Aleph, that's the first character, Sheen, Yod, and Tov. That's the last character. So that's the first 3 words. Now how is that translated in the King James Bible?
In the beginning.
Correct. It should have been translated this way, at birthing. Now if I translated it that way, would it begin to change the content of it?
Oh yeah.
It would change it tremendously, at birthing. So now then it's not talking about, if I said that, it's taking away from you the ideology that everything had to have a beginning, and so you got to go back somewhere and try to find this beginning, and you're going to spin your wheels, you're going to waste your life trying to go back and find that because it don't exist. It just ain't there. It was, it is, and will always be. But I can really get stuck in a beginning, can't I? Trying to go back and find it, see what happened, this did this did this. You can. But at birthing, now wait a minute, that changes everything. The perspective is brought where? Into the present now.
Present tense.
So, changes everything. Now, this B, or Beth, that's the second glyph, and actually the word means container or house. That's why it's used that way. How many of you have heard the word Bethlehem?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Beth, house, Lehem, bread. House of bread. So you hear that word Bethlehem, you think of house of bread. So there's a lot of places in the Old Testament where you'll see this, but it always refers to container. So you see your body with a covering skin. The skin is eretz. That's Hebrew. That means covering, eretz, which is translated for earth. So for you to be in your body, you have to have a covering, don't you? I tell you, if you've never read Bruce Lifton's book, The Biology of the Belief, you should read that book just to see what he says about your skin. Your skin is one of the most phenomenal organs in your whole body, is your skin. That's what helps you be you. If you didn't have that, we'd just all blob together. And this is what confuses so many, because they say, well, we're just all one. We are all one, but we're not blobbed together. Why? We have skin. We have eretz. We have this very thing that keeps me in this container called my body. And that, you know, that creates you. That makes you, you. So this word right here, Barashit, that's the first 3 glyphs, and it actually means at birthing. And you know, just to break this down in Hebrew and look at it and see all the component parts of it is pretty tremendous. It's very phenomenal, because if I look at this center one, the Aleph, that's number 1. And as number 1 being Aleph, it can be pronounced with the A sound, or it can be pronounced with the E sound. And that's why you get the word El-Ohim. How do you spell that? El-E-L. Or you can call it this way. You can call it Al. Have you ever heard Hindu? Allah. It's the same thing. Hindu, Sanskrit, Hebrew, and Egyptology pretty much are all the same, pretty much the same thing. They actually blend into each other. They're very close in all of the things that they do. So the Aleph is not God, but it is a symbol. So we use this as a sign of God, because God is the very center, the very core of your being. Because God is energy. God is life. God is light. And so, the more that we start to look at that, and then we will see at birthing, Genesis 1:1, right on the tail of that, we have 7 yoms. The Hebrew word yom means facets of life. And it got translated for the word day. So we have 7 stars in Revelation. We have 7 days in Genesis, or 7 yom, facets of life. All referring to the same identical thing. In other words, the very phenomenal thing that God created. What is it? You, your physical body. You are a phenomenon. You're not a mistake. You're not a sinner waiting to go to hell, hoping to go to heaven.
Thank God.
If you heard religion, it's going to condemn you. You're going to have to pray and hope that you make it. Hope that at the end, that whenever your number is called, or whenever Jesus comes back in the sky, you are hoping that you don't have any spots where you haven't cleansed. Right? Because it would be hell to pay if you do. So Genesis 1 through Genesis 2:3 is about these 7 yoms, or 7 endocrine glands, or the 7 facets of your life that create the brain and the entire nerve column. Because you see, your brain is not just up here and it's by itself. You will not disconnect your brain from your whole nerve column, that your spinal column and your nerves that go down through your neck into your entire body. It goes to the tip of your toes and to the very end of the last few hairs that you got on your head. Or all of the hairs you got on your head. Whichever you got. That's your nerve system. And guess what? God created it and designed it to be that way. How many of you have ever noticed that even on the hair on your body, if a flea or something that you can't even hardly see starts to crawl on you, even on your hair, what's the first thing you do? You say, oh, what? Oh, yeah, she's killing the poor thing. See, I'm not even talking about murder. I'm talking about what's going on in you, besides the fact you want to kill it. You feel it. Not wanting to kill it, you feel it, don't you? You can feel it. Wow, you got to think, how phenomenal is your feeling? Do you not realize that what we spend probably 80-90% of our life being moved by how we feel because I feel it. Is that wrong? No. It's how you're made. It's how God created you. What would be wrong would be letting your feelings rule your life instead of enjoying your feelings and you ruling them. We get it backwards. Right? I mean, we do. We don't do it on purpose. We do it usually because of the lack of teaching or no teaching really at all. Just preaching me into hell or wherever they're trying to put me into. So, all of that I'm telling you is in these glyphs right here. Badarashit, at birthing. So you have the source, which is God. You have the fire, which is the rash. That's what the rash means. The fire, which your body doesn't function without that. I mean, I think in 1932, 36, somewhere, they actually did a test and could actually measure the voltage of fire, electricity in your body. And they did. They said, wow, you are really an electrical being. A lot of electricity. And you know that, don't you? You ever done this, you know, you go across, it's cold, and you reach out and
I think it's 1.4 volts of electricity per cell, and that's like 750 trillion volts.
there you go, right there it is, mathematics.
It's
That's pretty big.
You can power New York City for several weeks, if not a month. Just one body.
So see, the story of Superman is actually the story of you. Y'all just need to put your cape on.
Now, Superman
Flying
will be
bee.
Superman, so.
Now-
That's the top dog right there now.
Now, looking at this, you know, I'm not making any of this up. This is from just literally hours, weeks, months, years of research and study. All of this is very easy to validate. People ask me, they'll call me and say, where do you get all that? I said, through study. Well, what books do you read? Hundreds. Where am I going to find the book? I said, I'm writing it. I'm trying to get it compiled from a plethora of information where you can draw from. There are just hundreds of sources you can draw to try, but you're going to have to work it out yourself. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I can recommend dozens and dozens of books, but many of the books will probably make you mad. Especially if they touch your golden calf and don't think you hadn't got one. I will probably stir it and touch it myself sometimes. I don't mean to, you know, but I do. Just like I said, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The heavens, Shamayim. The Shamayim is this right here. Shamayim, just the Hebrew word that's translated for the word heaven. Shin Mem. Anytime you have a mem, that's a mem. That's a mem. You actually have two mems in the Hebrew alphabet. You have two mems in the Hebrew alphabet. One of these mems represents the higher or upper aspect of your being, and the other represents the lower aspect of your being. But I want you to pay attention. Don't put down the lower aspect of your being because I said it's lower. Is it lesser in importance? Absolutely not.
Like roots.
If you did not have the lower aspect of your being, in other words, if you didn't have a vagina, if you didn't have a penis, you wouldn't have you. Period. That's not vulgar. You wouldn't be here. So don't reduce the lower to lesser. It's vital and it's an important part, and it's an important part of the function of your physical being. Right? Yeah. I mean, it helps you eliminate. Amen? If it ain't working right and you get all blowed up, you wishing it was working right. Amen. Yeah. So just because I'm saying lower, so when I'm talking about heaven, the waters above and the waters below, I remember used to, when I would take Genesis 1:7, this is 40 years ago, and I would separate that. I said, oh, well, that's referring to the water that's in the clouds, which are in the sky there above, and the waters which are in the lakes and in the rivers, that's below. I said, that's a real good literal way to put it. But you see, if it's going to apply it to the physical anatomy, where's the waters in the physical anatomy? Where are the four major veins or rivers that can't literally be found, and so they make them up? Where are the four at? Your heart. So if I'm talking about the rivers that flow in this physical body that keep it alive, I'm talking about the heart that has those four major rivers flowing, that life source throughout your physical body. But you can't find those four rivers that they list. Why? Because they are symbolic. Yes, Austin.
It's a little backtracking on the top earlier, the Beth, Ra, Alif. You said the second one's fire?
Yeah, the rash is fire.
And then what are the first and the third one represent for elements? Do they each have elements?
This one is air, sheen, yeah.
What about a leaf and bed? Do they have corresponding elements? Or are they elementless, or do they fall?
No, they don't have any corresponding elements.
And does the last one have, the fifth one, did they have a?
Tove, it has the element of earth with it.
So it's
See,
earth.
Tove has a value of 400. And so anything, so in gematria, if you reduce this, even though it has a value of 400, it has 3 characters in that 400, right? It's got the 3 characters, 1, 2, 3. And so that gives it divinity in its source or pattern. But then when you mark it in gematria to its lowest common denominator, you would mark that out, and then it would have 4. And so when you come up, anytime you have any word like Adam, Aleph, Dalit, Mem, that's translated for the word Adam. It's also the exact same word, Aleph, Dalit, Mem, for the word man. It doesn't refer to a guy named Adam or just to a male species, because its value is 4. It's referring to humanity that comes from the 4 elements: earth, fire, air, and water.
And that's what I'm getting to is,
Yeah.
so you said.
Yeah, I know where that you're going with that. Yeah.
It's earth, and then the 4, starting from the left, earth, fire, and then there's, I'm sorry, earth, air, blank, fire, but where's the water? If it's talking about in the beginning, wouldn't it make sense if they've got all 4 elements present as well? Or,
They're all in that whole first verse. They're all there. Yeah, they're there in many different words. Like in the word I'm talking about, heaven. It has the word. This is the word for water. Mem. Final mem. That's the word for water. Water is the major element to build anything in the physical. In a 3D manifest world, water is the major ingredient, period. So water makes up 75 to 95% of anything that's made. It doesn't matter what it is, if it's on the earth. Water is the key element. Many times water is an understood thing in it because it's just part of the basic foundation.
thank you.
Okay? All right, let me move on just a little bit and we'll finish. We'll just kind of wrap this up a little bit and we'll go have a party. Okay, I want you to look at Genesis chapter 2. Go with me to Genesis chapter 2, and I want you to find Genesis chapter 23. Just real quickly, find those 2 places. We'll look at these 2. The body is one of the most, if not the most, phenomenal of the creative aspects of God. The body is just miraculous. I mean, you know, it is. Your body is a miracle. It really is a miracle. How we live and function. I mean, you know, it's like they do not want to tell you. This is the political regime that we have running this nation right now. They do not want to tell you that your body is totally designed with an energy that Hebrew calls that energy Satan. Yet, when you look at that energy Satan, break it down to its blips and see what it really means. The word actually means that it is your immune system that's adversarial to anything foreign coming into your body. And so if your immune system or your Satan is functioning at its highest level, your Satan will destroy anything coming into your physical body. And now then they know that, medical science knows that. They know that you don't have to have a shot for your body to stand against, that's what Satan means, stand against anything coming into your body such as a virus. Because your body's filled with them anyway. And it's your Satan or your immune system that keeps that in order. If it gets out of whack, then your body will get sick, your body will get this, and so what do you need to do? You need to strengthen your immune system. And how can you do that? There are many ways that you can do that. Well, God said, I'm going to put in the earth the herbs, I'm going to put the things around you that I have created for you, mushrooms, marijuana, DMT, ayahuasca. He said, whoa, I got all this stuff around me. No, it's all within you. So if you go looking for DMT and something outside, oh, you can find it. Because why? They took, you see, these 7 glands create. They will create of themselves a DMT that will excite you and give you an experience that can equal, if not surpass, anything you can get on a substitutional basis. But Brother Lynn, it's a lot easier to get substitutional. I agree. It is. Why? Because it's going to take some discipline for you and me to know how the phenomenon of this body is. See, that's what I'm just trying to get us to think and realize how marvelous I really am. I'm not an old sinner that's not any good. I'm very valuable. You are too. We're valuable. God created you and God looked at you and said, wow, you are valuable. I don't even know how to put a value on you. You're richer than anything you can possibly imagine. The medical field know a lot of the things I'm telling you, and they don't want you to know that they know that you know, so they are demanding you do this. Knowing full well that your body is sovereign. They know that. I don't care who you are. Don't even care what color of skin, where you're from, etc., etc. They know the value of it. You see, the value of Genesis 1, chapter 1, verse 1 through chapter 2 and verse 3 of the 7 days, or the 7 yawns, or the 7 endocrine glands, or the 7 facets of life that create all of this phenomenon going on inside you is beyond comprehension. But it's there. If you want to do some study and research, it's there in every one of those days. Not just in the day and the numeric value of it, in everything about the aspect of it, its water content, its earth content, everything about it is there. I have broken it down, and I wish to God I had the time and the talents to put a book together just to show you that simple thing. Right? It's there. And when you and me try to make it a beginning that happened 6,000 or 7,000 years ago, and it happened all around these 7 specific days, they don't work. But you realize at the birthing, when Mama pushed you out, and it was the divine source that created you. It wasn't anything else. It wasn't because of the intelligence of your mother or anything to do with your father. It wasn't that at all. It was a divine source that created you in the womb. In that womb, it was a house built without the sound of a hammer or a saw. But it was a house built and you're the house.
Right.
And when God pushed you out, God moved into you permanently while you are here existing. How does He do that? Through the breath, the ruach. That's what that word means, ruach. Breath, Genesis 1:2. The ruach, the Spirit brooded over. Brooding simply means to hover, to sit. Just like a hen sets on her chicks, her 7 eggs, to life them. Your breath lifes you. And we don't know how to breathe sometimes. We just, learning how to breathe. I have to learn how to do everything. Really.
Your breath controls your blood flow. Like,
Everything.
and a lot of people don't know it. If you'll sit there and pay attention to your breath and see how you're breathing and then pay attention to your blood flow, they correspond.
The reason for it is that when the air, ruach, spirit, enters into your lungs transfers that air, oxygen, into blood and throws it throughout your entire body. So that the air is in your toes or in the hair on your head. Or actually counting all of the bacteria, like they say over 80 million just on your face right now, bacteria. Y'all feel them little critters crawling all over you? your eyeballs, and there's everywhere right there.
Taking up that DMT and you'll see him.
You sure can. You will be able to see them critters crawling. And then you will have one more hell of an experience. I'm trying to get to this. Let me do this real quick because I'm past my time. I wanted to quit in an hour, but we haven't scratched the scratch. But verse 7 says, "And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground, breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul." Now, if I were to ask you, go with me now to Genesis chapter 23. If I were to ask you, what is your soul? If I were to single you off, everyone, and I said, what is your soul? He said right there, God breathed into you, into your nostrils, the breath of life, and you became a living soul, a soul alive. If I were to ask you, what is your soul? I would get a lot of different ideas. I guarantee you I would. But yet now, if I'm taking Genesis 1:1 through Genesis 2:3 and showing you that is a picture of your body, what does your body need to function in the physical dimension? I mean, sure, okay, your mama's pushed you out. Your mama's has got you out of the house. She got tired of you. She said, you caused too much trouble in here. Now I want you out of here now. And so mama's pushed you out. Now here you are. What do you need to function?
Breath.
You got to have breath to live. But you've got to have to function in this dimension. So what do you need? You got to have a soul. Well, what in the world is your soul? Because see, most of you don't have a clue what your soul is. You know, you think it's the kind of music. If Marvin comes in here and sings one of them songs and does one of them left-handed time beats that I have to watch him to keep up with, and you start to feel that inside you. Oh, I'm feeling soul music now. Yeah, that's exactly, and I explained it just exactly what I just said, if you pay attention to it. Go with me to Genesis chapter 23 and look at, now the word that's translated right here in Genesis 2:7 for the word soul is the Hebrew word nafesh. Non-fe-sheen. That's how it's spelled. Non-fe-sheen. Nafesh. It's called soul. Now, do you find Genesis chapter 23?
Yeah.
Look at verse 8. And it says, and he communed with them, saying, if it be your nafesh, what's your translation say?
Mind.
Is your mind your soul?
Yes.
Absolutely. What is your mind? What is a mind?
Intangible.
A mind is that which thinks. So now then that God has created you a body, what did God say? Your body needs to have a mind. Why? So that it can function, it can think, it can analyze, it can take the things that are here, it can feel them. Mind feels. Now it didn't say brain. See, is your mind your brain? Is your mind your heart? Or is your mind your foot?
That's silly.
Your mind is in all of those. Your mind is that which stimulates your brain and the syntax in your brain for your body to physically work. But your mind is also that in your heart that causes you to feel and have emotions. And that's a marvelous, wonderful thing. So your mind and your soul. So now if I were to go back, it's the same identical word. So the same word for mind and the same word for soul, nafesh, they're exactly the same. So if I go back and I read Genesis 2:7, let's look at it again and read it this way. And the Lord God formed man. Now remember, you got a body now. God said, now you got this body. I've formed this body for you. And the Lord God formed the body out of the dust. The word dust is afar, and the word afar actually means particles of light. Not dirt. Because if you read dust, you read dirt. No. Out of the particles of light of the ground and breathed. Brown is Adamah, means miracle substance. Particles of light is the Adamah, miracle substance, not the Ilretz. Breathed in his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living mind. Changes the whole context of that verse. Now man's a living mind. He is a mind that's alive. You know, and when we take this a little bit further into the 3rd chapter of this book, we begin to realize now you have a body, and now your body has a mind, because you ain't going to function in this dimension without it. You have to have a mind. The problem is knowing how to use your mind, just exactly like you use something that's far you are against you. You can use your mind for your greater good. You can use your mind to tear your greater good down. Have you ever had your mind beat you up?
Oh, yeah.
My God, you're in charge of it. Why don't you say, look, we ain't going to think that no more. And you know what you do? You tell, I ain't going to think that no more. What do? Turn around and think that more. It's learning how to take these things that God has given us as a gift and use them for my greater good, not for my greater destruction.
That's right.
And I can do either or. You know, and to go from the nafesh to the next step, because I've got a body, now my body's got a mind, and the next step is not nafesh, the next step is nachesh. Same word with just a little different twist. And that's a whole nother hour. So we don't even touch that this morning. Okay. Let's just quit right there. We'll just unhook and